Imagine this. You wake up one morning and the world has changed overnight, but not in the way you expected. The air feels lighter, the colors sharper. You check your phone, and for the first time, the likes, the comments, the unread notifications, none of them pull at you. No itch to post, no pang of envy at someone else's highlight reel. A quiet, unshakable knowing settles in. You don't care what they think anymore. And then, the realization hits like a thunderclap. You never really did. Not deep down, not in the places that matter. The approval you spent years chasing was never yours to begin with. It was a borrowed script, a phantom hunger, a reflex so ingrained you mistook it for desire. But now, the spell is broken, the invisible chains have dissolved, and the question that remains is the most terrifying one of all. What do you actually want? The great contradiction. Here's the paradox. Society tells us that social validation is the currency of a meaningful life. We're taught that being liked, admired, accepted, seen is the ultimate proof of our worth. Yet history's most revolutionary minds, the ones who reshaped culture and consciousness, operated on an entirely different principle. Nietzsche didn't write for applause. He wrote with a hammer. Jung didn't map the unconscious to win popularity contests. He did it because the truth demanded it. Dostoevsky's greatest works emerge from exile, not adoration. So why do we, the ordinary seekers, still bow before the altar of approval? Why do we twist ourselves into palatable, digestible versions of who we are, only to wake up one day and realize we no longer recognize the face in the mirror? The answer is as unsettling as it is liberating. Smart people, the ones who see through the game, don't care about social approval because they've discovered something far more intoxicating. Something dangerous, something real. Picture a man standing at the edge of a crowded room. He's surrounded by laughter, clinking glasses, the warm glow of belonging. But instead of joining in, he watches. He sees the subtle adjustments people make. The way they soften their edges, exaggerate their laughter, hide their doubts. He notices the hunger beneath every performance, the quiet desperation in every like sought and given. And in that moment, something in him breaks open, not with sadness, but with clarity. Because he realizes the pursuit of approval isn't about connection, it's about survival. It's the ancient animal part of the brain screaming, if they reject you, you die. But here's the catch. You are not your brain's survival mechanism. You are the one who watches it. And that changes everything. The fork in the road. This is where the path splits. Most people will spend their lives chasing the phantom, sculpting their personalities, their beliefs, even their suffering into something digestible for the crowd. They'll call it being normal, being likable, being successful. But a rare few, the ones who've tasted the void and found it more honest than the masquerade, will do the unthinkable. They'll stop performing. They'll stop asking, do they like me? And start asking, do I like me? They'll trade the warm, shallow waters of belonging for the icy, exhilarating depths of self-ownership. And that is where true intelligence begins. But how? How do you tear yourself free from a force as primal as the need to belong? That's where the real story begins. The hidden problem and its psychological, philosophical roots. The illusion of belonging. You walk into a room and your body tenses, just slightly. Your shoulders pull back, your voice lifts half an octave, your laughter comes a beat too soon. You don't decide to do this, it happens to you. This is the primal script running in the background of every social interaction. Adjust, adapt, be accepted. But here's the unsettling truth. The need for approval isn't just a habit, it's a biological mandate. Our brains are wired to crave belonging because for most of human history, exile meant death. Rejection wasn't just painful, it was fatal. And so evolution hardwired us to seek validation with the same urgency as food or shelter. But modernity has twisted this instinct into something grotesque. Today, we don't just fear exile from the tribe, we fear exile from the algorithm. We don't just seek survival, we seek visibility. And in doing so, we've enslaved ourselves to a system that rewards performance, not truth. The philosophers who saw through the lie. Nietzsche called it the herd instinct. He watched as people traded their genius for the warm, numb embrace of conformity and asked, "Why would a lion ever want to be a sheep?" His answer was brutal, because it's easier to swallow lies than to digest the truth. Carl Jung went deeper. He saw that the need for approval wasn't just social, it was archetypal. The persona, the mask we wear in public, isn't just a tool for fitting in. It's a shield against the terror of being truly seen. But here's the catch. The more you identify with the mask, the more you lose touch with the shadow, the raw, unfiltered self beneath. And that's where the real power lies. Schopenhauer, ever the pessimist, put it bluntly. Most people are just mirrors, reflecting back whatever the crowd wants to hear. He argued that true intelligence begins when you stop seeking external validation and start obeying an inner law, one that most will never understand. The neurological prison. Modern neuroscience confirms what these thinkers knew centuries ago. Every time you receive a like, a compliment, a nod of approval, your brain releases dopamine, the same chemical that floods your system when you take a drug or eat sugar. But there's a sinister twist. The more you feed this loop, the more your self-worth becomes chemically tied to external validation. Over time, your identity fuses with the opinions of others. You don't just want approval, you need it to feel real. This is why social rejection hurts like physical pain. MRI scans show that the same neural pathways light up when someone excludes you as when you break a bone. You're not being weak, you're being hacked. The cultural conditioning. From childhood, you were taught, be nice, don't rock the boat. What will people think? These aren't just suggestions, they're spells. Schools reward compliance, not curiosity. Corporations promote team players, not truth tellers. Social media turns your identity into a brand, your thoughts into content, your worth into metrics. And the most insidious part, you don't even notice it happening. Like a fish unaware of water, you swim in the currents of approval, never questioning why you're exhausted, why your ambitions feel hollow, why you can't shake the gnawing sense that you're living someone else's life. The turning point. But there's a moment, rare but irreversible, when the illusion cracks. Maybe it's when you achieve something you thought would finally make you feel worthy and feel nothing. Maybe it's when you realize how much of your life has been spent performing for an audience that wasn't even watching. Or maybe it's when you encounter someone who doesn't care, and for the first time, you see what freedom looks like. That's the moment you face a choice. Keep feeding the machine, or break it. The slow death of authenticity. You sit across from someone at dinner, nodding along to their stories, laughing at their jokes, but your mind is elsewhere. You're mentally rehearsing what you'll say next, sculpting your words to fit their expectations. The conversation isn't a dialogue anymore, it's a performance. And the worst part, they're doing the same thing. This is the first casualty of the approval trap. Real human connection dies in the exchange of manufactured personas. When every interaction becomes a transaction, your validation for mine, something vital atrophies, the ability to simply be with another person. No masks, no agendas, just presence. And so we end up surrounded by people yet starving for genuine connection, wondering why even our closest relationships feel like well-choreographed lies. The creativity paradox. History's greatest artists, writers, and innovators shared one dangerous trait. They created for themselves first. Van Gogh painted not for galleries, but because he had to. Kafka wrote knowing his work might never be read. Emily Dickinson filled notebooks with poetry she never intended to publish. Now consider this. Had they prioritized approval over expression, we'd have no Starry Night, no Metamorphosis, no Because I Could Not Stop for Death. But here's the modern tragedy. We've been conditioned to create for the crowd rather than from the soul. Social media rewards content that pleases, not provokes. Algorithms amplify what's palatable, not profound. And so the most original voices are drowned out by the noise of mass appeal, or worse, never speak up at all. The result? A cultural landscape where everything looks the same because everyone's afraid to be different. The intelligence dilemma. Conventional wisdom says smart people succeed by adapting, but the truth is more provocative. True intelligence often manifests as socially inconvenient insight. Galileo wasn't celebrated for claiming the earth moved. He was put under house arrest. Darwin didn't win immediate praise for his theory of evolution. He was ridiculed. The Wright brothers were called fools before they were called pioneers. This presents a brutal catch-22. The smarter you are, the more likely you see through society's illusions. But the more you see through them, the less you can play along. And the less you play along, the more the system rejects you. Thus, many potentially brilliant minds self-censor, trading revolutionary ideas for comfortable conformity. The emotional tax. There's a hidden toll to constant approval seeking that few acknowledge. It makes you stupid about yourself. When you outsource your self-worth to others, you mistake their expectations for your desires. You interpret anxiety as intuition. You lose the ability to distinguish between what feels right and what looks good. Neurologically, this creates a terrifying phenomenon. The more you rely on external validation, the quieter your inner voice becomes. Until one day you wake up and realize you don't know what you want anymore. Not really. Not in the bone-deep way that guides authentic decisions. The societal hypnosis. When entire generations are raised to value approval over authenticity, political discourse becomes performance, education becomes credential collecting, relationships become social capital investments, spirituality becomes Instagram aesthetics. We create a world where the most successful are often the best actors, the most liked are frequently the least known. The most secure are paradoxically the most dependent. In the cruelest irony, the system convinces us this is freedom, that posting our every thought is self-expression, that accumulating followers is influence, that being universally palatable is likability. When in reality, it's the most sophisticated form of slavery ever devised. The moment of clarity. But occasionally the veil slips. Maybe when you're alone at 3 a.m. scrolling past someone else's perfect life and a quiet voice whispers, "None of this matters." Or when you achieve something that should have made you proud but instead leaves you hollow because the applause fades faster than the effort took. Or when you witness someone who genuinely doesn't care and instead of pitying them, you feel envy. These are the cracks where the light gets in, where the possibility of another way begins. How to break free. The first taste of freedom. There is a moment, terrifying and electric, when you first disobey the hunger for approval. Maybe it's when you say no to something you've always pretended to like. Maybe it's when you create something and choose not to share it. Maybe it's when you sit silently in a conversation instead of performing agreement. Whatever the act, the aftermath is the same. A rush of panic. What will they think? Followed by something unexpected. A stillness. A quiet, unshakable certainty that you've touched something real. This is the beginning of the rebellion. The counterintuitive truth. The escape from approval seeking doesn't come through fighting the need, but through seeing it so clearly that it loses its power. 3 liberating realizations. Most people aren't thinking about you. The crushing weight of what others think is an illusion. People are too preoccupied with their imagined audiences to scrutinize yours. The spotlight you feel is one you've placed on yourself. Disapproval is the price of meaning. Every significant act, choosing an unconventional path, speaking an unpopular truth, creating something original, will unsettle someone. If no one is confused or threatened by your choices, you aren't living boldly enough. The need for approval grows in the soil of self-doubt. The more you cultivate an unshakable inner compass through solitude, reflection, and deliberate action, the less others' opinions register as anything more than weather patterns passing through. Nietzsche's hammer. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. Practice. Once a day, deliberately express a minor preference against the group. Order the unpopular dish, voice the dissenting view. Notice who reacts with discomfort, they're still enslaved, and who leans in, potential allies. Jung's shadow work. The parts of yourself you hide for approval are the very parts that contain your power. Exercise. Write down 3 traits you suppress to be liked. Now imagine someone who embodies those traits unapologetically. What might they teach you? Epictetus' paradox. If someone told you that others spoke ill of you, would you rush to defend yourself? Then why do you crave their praise? Mental shift. Treat praise and criticism with equal indifference. Both are projections that say more about the speaker than you. The neurological revolution. Every time you resist checking likes, withhold an unnecessary apology, or sit with the discomfort of not being perceived, you're performing neural alchemy. Dopamine receptors that once fired for external validation begin rewiring toward the quiet satisfaction of acting from integrity, the thrill of unexplainable certainty, the addictive purity of creating without an audience. This is why former approval addicts often become society's most relentless truth tellers. Once you taste the clarity of self-validated action, posturing feels like poison. The radical rituals. The unshared creation. Write a poem, paint, or compose. Then don't post it. Let something exist solely for you. This severs the mental link between expression and reward. The deliberate discomfort. Wear an outfit that feels too much. Sing loudly in your car with windows down. Train yourself to associate vulnerability with power rather than shame. The approval detox. For 1 week, no social media, no fishing for compliments, no editing your personality. Keep a journal of what impulses arise. They'll reveal your deepest conditioning. The dark night of the ego. There will be a phase, perhaps months, where life feels less vibrant. Conversations may seem hollow when you stop performing. Old hobbies might lose appeal when not validated. Some relationships could fade when you cease people-pleasing. This isn't regression, it's withdrawal. Like a prisoner emerging from decades indoors, the light will hurt before it illuminates. But on the other side awaits decisions made from desire, not duty. Relationships based on mutual recognition, not transaction. A creativity that surprises even you. The quiet, unshowy joy of being precisely who you are. The ultimate truth. The final illusion. Here is a secret no one tells you. Freedom from approval isn't about not caring. It's about finally understanding what's worth caring about. The rebel who shrugs off society's judgment only to become obsessed with their own self-image has traded one cage for another. The true breakthrough comes when you realize neither the crowd's applause nor your own ego's whispers define you. There is something deeper. The existential shift. Imagine standing at the edge of an ocean at midnight. No one is watching. No one will ever know you were here. Yet you feel the vastness, the salt air, the hum of the unseen depths. And in that moment, you are alive in a way no Instagram post could capture. This is the essence. Validation seeking isn't just a social error. It's a metaphysical miscalculation. You've been trying to confirm your existence through others' eyes when the only proof you'll ever need is the sheer, undeniable fact of your own awareness. The raw experience of being here at all. The mirror test. There will come a day when you face a choice that matters, not to your reputation, but to your soul. Maybe it's leaving the secure job to pursue what calls you, loving someone the world disapproves of, creating the strange, beautiful thing only you can make. In that moment, ask yourself one question. If no one ever knew I did this, would it still be worth doing? If the answer is yes, you've found the thread that leads out of the labyrinth. The unbearable lightness. At first, this freedom feels like floating, untethered, terrifying, without the weight of others' expectations to ground you. Who are you? But in time, you'll discover the silence you feared is where your true voice lives. The solitude you avoided holds the conversations you were meant to have. The disapproval you dodged was the price of a life that mattered. And when you meet others who've made the same crossing, you'll recognize them instantly, not by what they wear or claim, but by the quiet intensity in their eyes, the way they listen more than they perform, the sense that they've touched something beyond the game. The last paradox. The ultimate twist, the less you need approval, the more authentically you connect. When you stop performing, people either reveal themselves as fellow travelers or fade away, making room for those who meet you at this depth. Your relationships become fewer but fiercer, built on mutual recognition rather than mutual manipulation. So now, the only thing left to ask is, what would you do if you knew no one was watching? Not as a hypothetical, but as a practice, today. The answer isn't out there in some distant future of enlightenment. It's waiting in the next unvarnished choice, the next unedited thought, the next moment you could either perform or simply be. The door is open. All that's left is to walk through.